Doing the Bhagavad Gita of Krishna. And Krishna is speaking to Arjuna, the divine personality within each one of us. And let's take a look at where we're at. For those of you who have the Bhagavad Gita pages that I've photostated for you, you're at 28.8. That's where we left off last week at 28.7. 28.8, and Krishna speaks to Arjuna and he says, "Do your duty as prescribed. For action for duty's sake is superior to inaction. Even the maintenance of the body would be impossible if man remained inactive." Let's take a look at that. Okay? Action, so we can see it. Action for duty's sake, okay, is superior to inaction. That's an interesting statement, and it's a very important statement. It's one that a lot of people in the New Age and a lot of people that get into meditation miss. They are very content to meditate and to chant, but that's about as far as they want to go with it, you know. And that's not going to do it. It just is not what the purpose of this is for. But let's take a look at that, what Krishna says. Action for duty's sake is superior to inaction. Those of you who have the little Bibles, open to page 212 in the New Testament, okay? And let's, the rest of us, go and find the book of James. James is right after the book of Hebrews, page 212 in the New Testament in those little Bibles. And let's look at James chapter 2. Let's look back up here and see what Krishna says. Action for duty's sake is superior to inaction. And in James chapter 2, we'll go to verse 17. And what does James say? Even so, faith, if it has not works, is dead. Okay? Faith without works is dead. Action for duty's sake is superior to inaction. Action is superior to inaction. Look at it again. Action is superior to inaction. That's what Krishna says. Now let's take a look at page 62 in the New Testament and go to the book of Luke. Page 62 in the New Testament. The rest of you go to the book of Luke. Go to Luke chapter 6. Luke chapter 6. Okay? Again, here we've had Krishna say, action for duty's sake is superior to inaction. James has said faith without works is dead. And Luke chapter 6, page 62, Luke chapter 6, verse 46. What does Jesus Christ say? "Why are you calling me Lord, Lord, and do not do the things which I say?" And that's a heavy duty thing, because you know what? Most of us have gone to church all of our lives. Some of you went to Catholic churches. Some of you went to Baptist churches, Methodist churches, Assemblies of God churches, whatever you went. You went to church all of your life, and yet not one of you or me could ever answer what you just saw. How come you call me Lord and you don't do what I tell you to do? And we never even knew what he told us to do. Love one another. Well, we certainly missed that one. So now what else did you say to do? I don't know. Go to church. He never said that. Read the Bible. He never said that. In fact, the one thing that he came against was reading the Bible and going to church. He had no time for that stuff. What did he tell you to do? Seek first the kingdom which is within you. We missed it. Totally missed it. And they still do. They still do. They're flooding the churches, and they're going into the sit in the churches. But if he was to come up to the platform himself, he'd have to say, "How come you're calling me Lord and you don't do what I tell you to do?" They were on last night on television talking about the coming kingdom of the Jews and how the Jews' temple has to be restored, and they're going to build a new temple, and then there's going to be 7 years and all of these things. And I'm sitting there, and each one of you that would sit there would know, what the heck, you don't even know what you're talking about. 7 years, this is going to happen. Well, it has to happen for 7 years. Then they start talking about the marriage. They're going to reinstitute the sacred marriage, which is a portrait of the marriage with Christ. That goes back to the point of Egyptian mythology, back 3,000 years before Jesus was born, the sacred marriage. They don't have any idea where this stuff came from, have no idea whatsoever, and yet they'll sit there and say, God, you know, you enlightened me so much with this stuff. 7 years. Oh, it's got to be 7 years. That'll give everybody. Why did he pick 7 years? Everything is 7 years. If you could look back into the mythology, back to the times of Zeus, and everything was 7 years. But they think it was all written just for this. They don't have any idea because they have failed to enter in and find that place which tells them what these things mean. So action for do. And look what he says here, Krishna in 28:8. Even the maintenance of the body would be impossible if man remained inactive. You can't stay in meditation. You want to stay in meditation. Did you ever sit here some nights in meditation and it's very quiet and you were down there and you think, oh my goodness, what do I hear? You're hearing the toilet flushing. The water's going rushing by through the pipes. Did you ever hear it? Sounds like a stream flying by here. What happened? How come the person had to get up? Because nature calls. God calls, and you got to do other things you got to do besides meditate. And that's what it says. Even the maintenance of the body, see, would be impossible if you remained inactive. You're in a physical order. You're in a social order. You got to be a part of it. What can he? Here's Tom. He's got to be a policeman. He's a policeman. What's he going to do? What is he going to do? Sit out there in a robe with everybody in direct traffic? No, he's got to do what he's got to do. I've got to do what I've got to do. Even me. Everybody has to do, because the point is that your meditation should make your existence in the world to carry out the things you do understandably more profitable for the universe and for everybody you come in contact. It should be a better place. He should be a better policeman because he gets direction from the higher mind as to what to do. He should be a better chef. I should be better in the business I am, which is in the cable business. Al should do, everybody should do their things better because you plug into a higher source. And not only that, but you set about to do the work you do to help people. Okay? And that's what it's all about. But most, you know what a lot of people want to do? Especially New Age people. They want to come and float around the room. They want to float around the room, and they want to have a meditation. They want to chant, and they want to go into this. But they don't want to get involved and say, this purpose of this meditation is so that you can do physical things on this planet to help other people, to correct the hurts, to help overcome that which has come against the oppressed and the poor people, that which has come against the children, that which has come against the aged, that which has come against the sick. We were talking earlier before. I mean, what does a sick person do who, you know, where is he going to get the money to pay for the doctor? Where? You have to go and you have to hawk your house. Well, you don't have a house. So you got to run away. Or you got to steal it. What are you going to do? Where are you going to get your money to pay for your insurance? There's a big ad in the newspaper in New Jersey a few weeks ago. The new motor vehicle director is going to clamp down on the 500,000 people that don't have an automobile insurance. I can guarantee you 99% of them are making $5 an hour and can no way afford it. But they've got to drive a car to get to that job for $5. What are they going to do? And so then you find out that the world has to be built around the Christ consciousness, because it has to be, as Mr. Bush had said one time ago, a softer, kinder, gentler place. It has to be built around more of a concern for the poor and hurt people who can't keep up with the system. Can't keep up with the system. Well, anyhow, you've got to be in this world, but you're not going to be of the world. And that's of course, a part of the teachings of the Bible too. Now look at 28:9. What does it say? In this world, people are fettered by action unless it is performed as sacrifice. Therefore, O Arjuna, let your acts be done without attachment, as sacrifice only. What is basically, many people will come here and say, what am I going to get out of this? You know, what am I going to get out of this? You know, has my situation improved? You know, will I get first place? Will I get the job? I have to be a success. I have to do this right. My future depends on it, and on and on and on and on. You know, I mean, you know, what's going to happen? Say if Tom is going to be considered for a promotion in the police department. Say there's another guy there that you know, he's going for. This is a big thing, man. It's a big thing for his career. So his wife's got to sit down maybe and say, God, let Tom have this. In other words, what she's saying is make sure that other guy doesn't get it. See? That's what I want you to do, God. I don't want you to bless Tom so he gets it. I want you to knock that other so he doesn't get it. Don't let him think of the right answers. Put a little fakakta on his head, you know. I don't want him getting this. This is what we do. We sit down in Thanksgiving. Oh, thank you, God, that you gave us this beautiful food. I'm glad you didn't give it to the other guy, so there's plenty for me. What are we talking about? What happens here? Here's a guy at the Little League field. Oh, God, this is the championship game. Please don't let it rain. There's a farmer 2 miles down the road. Oh, God, my crops are withering. Please let it rain. What's going to happen here? See? It depends on your interests as to what your prayers are. That's why prayers that come out of the carnal mind get nowhere, because they're just self-serving types of things. When you understand God is not giving anything to him that he's not giving to me, God is not withholding anything from you that he hasn't withheld, or he's not withholding anything from anybody. Everything is the same. Everybody has the same chance of going into the sun. Everybody has the same chance of getting wet by the rain. Doesn't make any difference. See? But what happens? Kids that play sports, they got to win. Teams are in leagues. All of us have to achieve. All of us have to accomplish things. All of us set goals. You go into business management lectures, you know, the first thing they do is set your goals. And you know, they had me, and they knew I'm a revolutionary type of person. And when I was in the meeting, they say, Bill, tell us about your goals. I say, I don't make any. What are your beliefs? I say, I don't believe in anything. But you know what? The psychologist who was teaching the course said, I know exactly what you mean. Because they had in the book, they said, let's go into rap sessions with one another and talk about security. And so the person I was sitting with, I looked at that person, I said, there is no such thing. What security is there? You're living on a tennis ball going 40,000 miles an hour through space with nobody driving it. That's security. Where are you going to go? Where are you going to go? You know? There is no security, because what can happen? You can build your pension, you can get your Blue Cross, you get everything else, you go out of Vito's parking lot, boom, you get hit by a truck. That's the end of that. Now what happens? She gets the money. He's worked all of his life. He's done all of these things. He winds up getting hit by the truck. She gets all the money. That's security. Huh? For who? See? Then, you know, she builds her little nest egg. Huh? She builds her little nest egg. She's got everything she wants. She puts a new deck on the house with all the money she got from him getting conked by the car. She's having a great time. She's out on the deck, and the deck gets new paint. She slips on the day, hits her head on the thing, and that's the end of her. Now who gets the money? Governor Florio gets it. He worked what she worked. So there is no such thing as security. And what Krishna is saying is, if you will understand that you have to move into the flow of nature, and you have to pray and desire only to be in the flow of nature and not have a desire to accomplish, you'll accomplish. You'll accomplish. What happened when you were a little kid? You put your hand in your father's hand. Did you know where you were going? You had no idea. All you knew that as long as you had your hand in his hand, you were going somewhere, and everything would be okay. You know, and if you ever got in a crowd, you started screaming if you were like me. Ah! You know, where is my mother? Where? And as soon as they grabbed your hand, they pull you through the crowd, you're banging into people. You didn't care where the heck you were going. Just hang on to me. See? That's it, what this is all about. That's what this is all about. You don't know where you're going. You're not saying you're going anywhere. Just hold on. Let me hang on to you, and I'll go. That's faith and trust, yes. You jump in the river and say, river, wherever you're going, I'm going. Let's go. And that's where you plug into divine instinct. That's what gave this beautiful Dalmatian the knowledge to have 9 puppies and do it beautifully. And the geese to fly, and the birds and all of the animals. That little thing within you that says, I will hang on to that, and I will trust that it will take me to the right place. And it will. Because nature doesn't make mistakes, and nature doesn't fool you. See? And that's what Krishna is trying to get through in the Bhagavad Gita, that our battles inside come a cropper when we pray and look for things to happen that we want to happen. Because more often than not, they're the wrong things, and they're not the good things for us. Okay? So Krishna says, don't do anything to prove anything. Don't do anything to win anything. Don't do anything to make anything. Play for fun. See? Remember when you were a kid? When I was a little kid in Newark, there was a park called Vailsburg Park up in Newark. Shaking your heads. I don't know. I used to go there with my friends. My mother, nobody knew. We stepped out of the world. We went into that park, and nobody knew where we were from 8 o'clock in the morning till it got dark. We'd come home. There was no people telling us what game to play, how to play it. We did what we played and what we wanted to play. Because all we were doing, we weren't competing. We were just having fun. We used to choose up, you know, and there was always some guy nobody knew. But you choose up, and then just play. Just play all day, and then when you get done, you don't want to play 9 innings, you play 2 innings, and then you got out of there and you run away. It's just play something else because you were just playing for fun, and there was no stress. Now, what do you got to do? You got to get a uniform. You got to look like Mickey Mantle. You're defending Joe's Service Center, for God's sakes. God forbid you lose, and Joe's Service Center will lose to the Mobile station, and what a disgrace this is because you dropped the ball already? What? 7 years old? I got a nervous breakdown. I got stress. I can't even talk. I don't even know what stress means, but I got it. Why? Because everybody desires that we win. Everybody wants us to compete. Everybody wants us to beat the other person. Krishna says, don't do that. Don't play that way. Don't raise your children that way. Give yourself to help someone and someone, not to get what you want. Give of yourself because it's right. See? It's a beautiful thing. Nature does a beautiful thing. Say, hey, poor little flower, the little dog got so sick. And she died. But what did nature have? And what did nature provide? And what has nature given? A beautiful life for a little flower called Daisy. See? And it's that way. If you're open to it, if you'll allow it to happen. But we could have sat and said, oh, there'll never be another flower. We'll never get another dog. I hear so many people say that. I'll never get another dog. Why won't you get another dog? Because I couldn't stand the hurt of losing another dog. So then you're not getting another dog because you're inconvenienced for the damn hurt. Excuse the expression. This is church. But you're, you know, it gets me. Oh, I couldn't go through it again. What about the dog? Yes, by all means, bring in love. Give love. And the love will pour back. So what's this little dog? Well, I got pictures. This little dog comes in. What's she do? Takes Flower's pillow and trots in through the house. She hasn't got it down yet, and I keep shoving it in her mouth. I say, here, run, run. She'll do it when she does it. See? And that's what Krishna is trying to tell us. Just allow things to be. Allow yourself to be. You don't have anything to prove to anybody. And the main thing is don't do what the system wants you to do. Do what the Spirit tells you to do. What you want to do. Well, that's you have to do your work. You have to follow rules at work. And I understand. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about those deep spiritual and things that are part of life. Just do them. What do people do here? We have people here. And I'll tell you something. Mary, Kathy. I said to Kathy, I said, I got to go out to the hospital to visit a couple of people tomorrow morning. I'll save you the trouble of having to drive all the way up from Manahawkin to the post office to I'll pick up the mail. She got, well, you know, she said, I would rather do it because that way I can keep track and I know how to keep everything in order. And she said, but if you don't want me to, she doesn't get paid for that. But she has a real piece in what's going on in here. And it's important to her. Mary Jengard's the same way. This thing goes on all night. I called her up last night. She staggers. I can hear she's in bed. I said, am I disturbing you? No. I said, Mary, I'll call you back when you're, and she goes down. The next thing, she's got her book out. She's got her pencil out. She's taking all this information that goes on. These people do this. And they don't ask for nothing except they want to see because they know it's right. And they know that what they see happening here when people are touched by it and turned around. Rose and Joe, you know, this is brand new on them. And I'm not just picking up it, but, I mean, all of a sudden, what? The church is open Saturday. For what? To help little kids. To let the same beautiful thing that's in this room circling around like a beautiful cyclone of love touch little kids. So all of these things are done simply for the beauty of it. Time and effort is sacrificed with no strings attached. I want to say how Jesus put this. Would you look with me on page 9 in the New Testament and go to Matthew chapter 10, the rest of you? Matthew chapter 10. And this is what I want you to live by in this church. And you're not members. Nobody's members. I'm not even a member. We're just here. But I think this is somebody, I don't know who owns this place, but I mean, whatever. But this is what I'd like you to live by. And I'd like myself and Joan to live by it as people who follow the inner spirit. What does Jesus say in Matthew chapter 10, verse 8? Heal the sick, cleanse the lepers, raise the dead, cast out devils. Freely you have received, freely give. No strings attached. And you say, well, I can't heal the sick. Brother, let me tell you something. Each one of us who has come through the door is trying to find this holy place for sick, and a healing took place. You say, well, I can't cleanse lepers. When your life is falling apart piece by piece, that's what it means. When things are just wasting away, that's a leper. That's what symbolically lepers mean, okay? Raise the dead, how am I going to do that? You take people who are totally dead to the Spirit, having no idea whatsoever the existence of this higher mind, raise them from the lower level of that which is the struggle against that world, and raise them up into heaven within themselves. Cast out devils, cast out the thoughts that screw everybody up and frighten everybody. And freely you have received, and you have here. Nobody's ever, I don't have the slightest idea who gives what. I don't really, I never have. Been doing this for, how many years have we been doing this? We don't sit down, well, so-and-so's behind in their offerings. We don't even know. Nobody knows. It's not important, see. It's important, the bottom line. If the bottom line isn't there, I get a little, but I mean, we don't look and see who gives what. That's not of my business, not of anybody's business. Let's look at, I want to show you something, it's an interesting thing of pre-Genesis. Pre-Genesis means before Genesis, okay? Here we go. Genesis, page 33, the Bhagavad Gita. Watch this one. In the beginning, when God created all beings, by the sacrifice of himself, he said unto them, through sacrifice you can procreate, and it shall satisfy all your desires. God took a part of himself, that part became you. See, part of you is you, and part of you is God. I think you're all mature enough and old enough to understand what I told you about the teachings in the mystical pyramid text of Memphis in Egypt. How could they describe such a thing like this? Sounds funny to you. Can sound very amazing to a lot of people. Nonetheless, in the pyramid text of Egypt, in Memphis, and now encased in a library in London, England, it was placed in there on the scroll in 1805, it talks about God, whose name was, interesting, Atom, had a desire. Everything in mysticism, everything in the Bible is built around sex. Has nothing to do with sex, but it uses sex as a symbol. The bridegroom and the bride, that which is the whoredoms and all of this stuff, the intercourses, and all of this stuff's talking about, because it's all talking about creation. And what it said of Adam was that he took his phallus in his right hand. The phallus is the male organ, sexual organ. Took his phallus in his right hand and masturbated. The seed spilled from him onto the earth and life burst forth. And he was overwhelmed with ecstasy because he had a desire to allow his inner to pour out onto the earth so that all life could then come up. So you say, oh, that's awful. It's not awful. How else? These people got right down to the nitty-gritty. This is how he did it. This is how he did it. I said a little bit. I said, well, you want to be a little careful sitting at the right hand of the Father, but I mean... But you see, but each one of us, see, you can look down at the floor and you can look up, oh my God, what did he say? Now, wait a minute. What I'm telling you is written in stone. It really is. In a stone that washed up onto the beaches of Egypt somewhere 3,000 years before Jesus Christ was born in a place called Memphis in Egypt. This is in the pyramid text. And this is the way they described how God poured out of himself. That's all they knew. How else could he do it, see? So they described it this way. But one of the most interesting things is his name is called Atom, A-T-U-M. And who was born as a result of this is something that we'll talk about in a few weeks when we do this. I don't know what we're going to call this thing, but I think we're going to shoot for the works and put it in the paper and let's see if anybody shows up. That's going to be a great one. Well, but see, wait a minute. Never be afraid. Never be afraid to talk about that which is a historical fact, of a belief of a class of people, a group of people. It is. And for those, they say, where did you get such a thing? It's on page 83 of Joseph Campbell's book of Oriental Mythology. And it's, but when you start to look at what is created out of the seed spilling onto the earth, it becomes just more of the magnificent, beautiful thing. It's just a way of people at a time of how, describing this. Okay? But this is Genesis, say. In the beginning, so then you see here. And maybe then the Bhagavad Gita was carrying out that same type of message, because it says, in the beginning when God created all beings by the sacrifice of himself, he allowed that part of him to spill out on and create life. See? And it's God that dwells in you, is a part of you. It comes from the original essence of that which we call God, and it is in you. So then you have an understanding that, yes, there is a part of you that lives here. There is a part of you that is God that lives here. And then your business is to go to the mountain. Your business is to go to the upper room. Your business is to go back up to the Father's house and to make a contact with that part of you that is the God part of you. You have a choice. You have two parts in you, God part and your part. See? But wait a minute now. I don't know how many of you have children. Joan and I never had children per se, but many of you have had children. Your children are a part of you. And your children, for the most part, resemble you. Don't you see? If then God seed poured out on the earth, and we then resemble. We're part of him. We resemble him. Huh? All of us resemble God because he gave a part of itself to be us. And I said a part of itself. No male or female. It is an intelligence, a force of nature that allowed itself to sacrifice itself. And so then, here, if I say to you, you have children and your children resemble you, that's easy for you to understand. You have no trouble accepting that. Okay, let's go back to the book of Genesis, the first book of the Bible. Little Bibles go to page 4, the book of Genesis. The rest of you go to Genesis 5. It is so good, believe me, you don't know how good it is to be able to stand with people mature enough to discuss things like this. Do you know what is the chance of this thing that I told you ever being discussed in a church, in a Christian? They couldn't deal with it. They couldn't even consider saying such a thing. I'm not asking you to believe it. I'm saying that is a belief of people who wrote thousands of years ago. See? But most people, most churches could not even consider saying it. Because everything to them becomes obscene. There's an obscenity attached to something like that. There is no obscenity attached to a belief of people who tried the best way that they could to explain how it came to them that God was able to create life. How could he do it? Well, that's all they knew. See what they were up to back in Memphis and 3,000 years ago. Nothing's changed, right? Here we go. Genesis 5. Let's take a look at verse 1. This is the book in the generations of Adam. What does it say? The generations of Adam. Where's Eve? In the day that God created man, in the likeness of God made he him. Do you see that? In the likeness of God made he him. Well, you have children. You look at them, your children resemble you. In many cases, they have characteristics that you have. And what's happening here is God and Krishna and Jesus are trying to instruct you to return to the place within you where you will pick up the characteristics of your family, of God. Look at verse 2 of Genesis 5. Male and female he created he them, blessed them, and called their name Adam, in the day when they were created. Where's Eve? Eve is simply a part of a symbolic statement that describes the emotional nature. Adam is simply a part of that which is the symbolic statement that describes that which is the mind. Because each one of you are male and female. Every one of us have that. And you can see that in some of the situations of homosexuality and the other things where those things are not balanced quite the same as they are in other people. But everybody is male and female. And that's why everybody is mind and emotion. Everybody is spirit and mind, and that's what it means. That's the male and female aspect of human life. So here we understand from Krishna that God allowed a part of himself to be you by sacrificing that part so you could enjoy and experience life. What did Jesus say in Luke 17:21? The kingdom of God is in you, dwells in you, is in you, part of you, is life. And you simply have to enter in and touch that. And the horrible part of religion and Christianity mainline is they've denied that. They say you're just whatever you are. And God is off on a planet somewhere up in the sky. But see, that's not, even the ancients knew better than that. They said, no, even if you say, well, you know, it's a horrible thing to say God masturbated in order to bring life. But at least they were expressing the fact that he brought his inner seed and spilled it so that you could grow, so that you are part of him. And part of him is you. They knew that. See? And if you get right down and think of it, and if you get over the shock of it, it's a pretty doggone beautiful way of describing God's desire to make things grow. And without the involvement of two, one was able to bring you into life because of his willingness to do this and his desire and ecstasy. Look, go to page 170 in the New Testament. 170 in the New Testament, and go to 2 Corinthians. Go to 2 Corinthians chapter 6. I don't know. I honestly don't know why people get mad at me because I tell them the kingdom of God is in them. God is a part of them. They are a part of God. Christ is in them. Okay? And they can touch that and become one with God and one with Christ. And yet they have you praying up into space somewhere and looking up into space and figuring out all of these horrible nuclear junk that they're going to have happen. Watch this. Look what it says here. Through sacrifice you can procreate, and it shall satisfy all of your desires. That's in 30. Now, I'm not reading the Bible. I'm sorry to tell you that. I'm reading 33:1 of Bhagavad Gita. Through sacrifice you can procreate, and it will satisfy all of your desires. Now, back in Memphis, they say that God did this, and it satisfied his desire to procreate. Okay? Now, watch what happens here. What was his desire? His desire was that you and him be one. That you be a part of God and that God be a part of you. No separation. So that you could go inside of yourself and touch him and receive instruction from him as to what you should do and how you should live. Okay? Look at 2 Corinthians chapter 6 and go to verse 16. And what agreement hath the temple of God with idols? For you are the temple of the living God. As God has said, I will dwell in them and walk in them, and I will be their God, and they shall be my people. He will dwell where? In you. How could this be? Because his seed created you. You are a part of him. He is a part of you. There is an essence within you. The lower essence is the carnal mind. The higher essence is God. That is why Jesus said you must go to the upper room. That is why you must go to the mountaintop. That is why angels have wings and fly up in the sky. It's all talking about the higher part of you that is the God part of you. And that's where you've got to go. See? Now let's go back to 33:1 in Bhagavad Gita. Through sacrifice, you can procreate and satisfy all your desires. Through the giving of yourself, you can sacrifice and it shall satisfy all of your desires. And what does it mean? Sacrifice means to bring forth, to reproduce. Through the sacrifice you bring forth, you reproduce that which is the God nature in you, the love nature in you, the healing nature in you. That's what you're trying to do. If you bring kids in here, into this room on a Saturday night, you're trying to do what? Bring forth the love nature of this room, the God nature of this room, the God nature that is within you, and allow it to what? Procreate. To create within them that which is the feeling of liberty, that which is the feeling of peace, that which is the feeling of renewal, that which is the feeling of self-worth, which children don't have because of the lunacy of schools and government and so many of the things that we've been taught as kids ourselves. Like begets like, and if we're taught to be afraid, we're going to teach these kids to be afraid. If we're taught to be guilty, we're going to teach them to be guilty. See, if we're going to taught that devils and demons are going to get us, you're going to be looking under the bed for devils and demons just like you did and like I did. Every time when I used to lay in bed, geez, I see a shadow. My God, it looked like a monster. I'd have to get up and turn the light on. It was a coat hanging on a wall somewhere. But boy, that looked like some guy was in there. And why should I even be thinking of those things? Because our minds are constructed around that type of fear. So what you do then is you sacrifice your lower nature in meditation. You rise to the divine nature. See? And it will reproduce the divine in others. Look at what happened. You then, because of God's seed or this thing that happened, how does it happen? God knows, but it happens. You see it in the animal kingdom. You see it in the kingdom of nature when you see the trees and the leaves come back. But look what happens here. What are you supposed to be? Are you supposed to be a worthless sinner like like the Christians say you are, and you just hang out on this planet, and then maybe if you're lucky and if you said the right words, you'll go to some heaven somewhere after you die. What a disgrace. What a waste. What a waste. You're using the planet Earth, the most magnificent planet in the universe, as a bus stop. Not even allowed to enjoy it, because many people who have lived, gotten old, and died have never understood it as the potential of heaven, because they've been told by their religion it's just a place to hang out until you can die and go someplace else. God, whoever created it, the universe, nature created this most magnificent blue-green marble in the center of the universe to be a playground for animals and for people. And what have we done with it? We said it's a fakakta, it's nothing. I don't like this old world. I'm waiting to go up higher. Get out of here already. Go up higher then. What? Spilling your garbage all over the place? I don't care. I'll spill garbage. This is just a style. I'm going on to higher ground. So that's what happens. And if you're taught that this old world is no good, then you treat it like it's no good. So what is we talking about? What is we talking about? What is we talking about? Page 149 in the New Testament already. What? Romans 8. Romans 8. Page 149 in the New Testament, Romans 8. You there? Romans? Running a little late, but I'm on a roll. On a roll. Let's talk about rolls. There's plenty of rolls out there. What does it say? Romans 8, verse 29. What does it say about God? Talking about you. For whom he did foreknow. Do you know what that means? You were known to God before you were born. You were known to God before you knew your husband. You were known to God before you knew your children. And that time, you know what's going to happen? Finally, when you see him, whatever it is, you know what you're going to say? Oh, for God's sakes, it's you. Holy cow, I can't believe it's you all this time. Holy Jesus, it's you. Who'd ever thought? I never remembered that. That's exactly right. Because he knew you before. And what does it say? For whom he did foreknow, he also did predestinate. That means it's all been worked out. It has been arranged that you are going to have as much time as you need for what? To be conformed to the image of his Son, that he might be the firstborn among many brethren. And they should put sister in there too, but many brethren. That's what your job is. You were foreknown, you were predestinated to come here and to make this into the most magnificent, and to work your way back up into the Father's house. So that Christ could be the first of many brethren. Krishna would be the first of many brethren. It would all be a beautiful oneness, see? So then what happens? Jesus sacrifices his flesh. And then the divine in him saves others. And what do? You sacrifice your flesh in meditation, and that which you reproduce procreates and produces many brothers. Notice something about 33:1. It says that as you do this, your desire will be satisfied. But you know what? Because it's just like what they're talking about, and it's just like the ladies I was talking about, your desires are to help. Your desires are not to get something or do something that I'm going to get out of this. Your desires are to help. Because you know why? You know this doesn't work like it did in religion, where you used to get frustrated, you used to say from prayers and nothing ever changed. You know doggone well that when people put this into motion, it works. And it's a lot easier to work for something that you know pays off and works, isn't it? And produces than it is just to go around saying some prayers. And that's beautiful. I'm almost done. Now I just want to show you something in 33:2. Worship the powers of nature, and let them nourish you in return. Thus, supporting each other, you shall attain your highest welfare. Isn't that some statement? And you know the beauty of that statement? Worship the powers of nature. Now, first of all, worship does not mean bowing down and considering nature God, although nature is. It means revere it, admire it. You know what? Now listen to me very carefully. What did Krishna say? Worship the powers of nature, okay? Because you shall attain your highest welfare. Let me give you a reading of the word nature from Webster's dictionary. Nature, Webster's dictionary, the creative or controlling force in the universe. Aha. Here's another one. An inner force in an individual. You ready? Go ahead. Look it up, Webster's dictionary. See? You know, I remember when Kitaro starts out on his tape that he did the tour, he says in his beautiful way in this Japanese, he said, my music comes from nature. And nature is the center of me and all people. For when we come into the center, we come into nature. See? And so what does Webster say? Nature is the creative or controlling force in the universe. Want to call it God? Call it God. Webster could care less. It's an inner force in an individual. So then the power of the controlling force of the universe is the power of the inner force within you. It's the same thing. As it is without the macrocosm, macrocosm, so it is within the microcosm. As the sun rises in the universe, the sun rises from the solar plexus in the universe. As it consumes Aries, it consumes the pineal gland. And as the right side lights up, summer comes. It's the same thing. The controlling force in the universe and the power of the universe is within you. And Krishna is saying, understand that. Revere that. Admire it. Learn it. Understand it. Respect it. Be one with life in the universe. In other words, be New Age. Because the old age doesn't understand it, doesn't revere it, doesn't respect it, doesn't believe that it's God, and so they miss it. They think it's just something that was made. You cannot make a tree. You cannot make a pussycat. You cannot make an ocean. You cannot make a dolphin. They are created from that same life force, and they live with the same Christ God force within them. They are nature. Revere it, respect it. So what Krishna is saying, go beyond the self and the mind and touch the mystical powers of what we call God. And then listen what it says in 33:2. Worship the powers of nature and let them nourish you in return. Let your entire being be what? What does it say? Let your entire being be nourished by that inner self, that inner power. We're almost done here, but go to page 91 in the New Testament, the book of John. John, don't worry if we run out of that audio. Oh, I see, yeah, you got to keep the sound. I'm sorry, but I'm running a little bit. But John chapter 4, you with me? Okay. What did Krishna say? Let nature, let that inner being nourish you. Look at John chapter 4, okay? You with me? Go to verse 31. In the meanwhile, his disciples said to him, Master, eat. They're talking to Jesus. But what did he say? He said unto them, I have meat to eat that you know not of. Ah! What did he say? In other words, he's saying, I am being nourished by something that you know nothing about. That is what you are consuming here in this place. Something that people outside know nothing about. In other words, being nourished, as it says in Krishna, nourished by the power within. And then it says, as we wrap it up, thus supporting each other, you shall attain your highest welfare. Not condemning each other, not judging each other, not finding fault with each other, not excluding anybody, no matter what status they are in life, but by supporting each other by means of the nourishing power which is within you, you shall attain what? Your highest welfare. That's quite a promise. Quite a promise. And doesn't it make beautiful sense? And doesn't everything that you've learned through Krishna and the Bible tonight make beautiful sense for plugging into the universe and nature and life as it is meant to be and for your part in it? Thank you.